بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله النبي الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على طاعتك يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك اللهم ثبتنا عند الموت بلا إله إلا الله آمين يا رب العالمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I hope everyone is doing well. This is Nihal Khan speaking. So thank you everyone for joining from all over the world, I believe, that we have with us today. Let's just go ahead and take a moment, and in the chat box, everyone can go ahead and introduce themselves. Just you can write your name and where you're from. And as we're doing that, I just wanted to welcome you all to our webinar on the 5 essential mindsets to understanding the Quran in Arabic. So again, as I'm speaking, go ahead and just introduce yourself. Just write your name, and then, or if your name's already there, you can just say where you're from. And then we'll briefly get started in a few seconds. But we just wanted to get some interaction going in the room to see where everyone is coming from. So again, my name is Nihal Khan. I am a student at Nadwatul Ulama in Lucknow. Originally, I was born and raised in the United States in New Jersey. I went ahead and I, alhamdulillah, completed my hifz when I was a child. I had memorized from Darul Uloom, New York. And then afterwards, I had pursued a diploma in Arabic from the Baina Institute in 2011. And then I had completed my undergraduate studies in psychology. That's where afterwards I had decided to further my studies, and I ended up here at Nadwatul Ulama. But before I went, I had taken a few Arabic classes after my diploma in Arabic, and I was interested in seeing how Arabic's taught, how is Arabic learned, and how is Arabic understood amongst general people in our day and age. So I got into learning as much as I could about the subject, and this led to me making a course which was, number one, very simple to understand if the individual is able to put in their effort, and number two, that if an individual is finding it difficult to necessarily speak in Arabic, or not speak but understand in Arabic, then hopefully the course would make it easy for them. So I started taking classes with several institutes in several programs, and I just kind of started to iron out and see what worked, what could take more improvement, and other things which perhaps it would be better left not taught. So that's what it led to. So I see that we have some participants, so go ahead and type into the box wherever you're from. I would love to hear from you all. So for example, I will write here. Okay. So before I begin, I just want to let you all know that I'm really excited to be able to teach worldwide with this opportunity at Quran Academy. They're doing good work, and inshallah together we'll be able to bring the message of the Quran to people all throughout the world, inshallah. About a little bit more about myself, alhamdulillah, during my time in New Jersey, I taught about 300 students over a 5-year period. So that helped me understand how individuals process and think about Arabic. It's not an easy subject, and we're going to be going over it in these slides today. It's not easy, but at the same time, it's not difficult if you just put your mind to it. So I'm going to go over all of these points that I am mentioning to you now in this brief webinar, which though we have it planned for about an hour, we'll try to get through it within 45 minutes or less. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and share some some slides with you guys, so that way we can go ahead. Okay, we're just going to take a second real quick. So, as I mentioned before, we're going to go ahead and go over these 5 points. And then after these 5 points, the essential mindsets, what I'm going to do is I am going to introduce the course that we're going to be teaching. And then in the last few minutes, I'll open up the conversation for some Q&A. And then we'll see where it goes from there. So let's begin with the first mindset that I had outlined. Now, the first mindset involves working hard, working smart, not hard. It says here work hard and smart, but this is incorrect. It's work smart, not hard. So that's the first thing. Right? Work smart, not hard. So one thing we need to take a look at is I heard this quote not too long ago. Actually, this is in Shark Tank, where an individual came with an idea, and what he kept doing was he said that I'm hustling, I'm constantly outside, I'm speaking to people. And one of the investors made a point, and he said, look, it's not about you putting in the effort. It's not about you necessarily doing the same thing over and over again. It's about doing something once and doing it right. That's what it's about. So similarly in Arabic, yes, you do have to put your own effort in, but at the same time, you have to put your effort in the right place. If you're putting your effort in the wrong place, you're going to be losing a lot of productivity. So in this area, in this arena, what's important to understand about the Arabic is to work smart, not hard. So the first thing you want to do is understand how you learn as an individual. Some people are visual learners. Some people are audible learners. Some people learn in ways which are very weird. Some people learn in ways which are very general. But it's just important to understand, how do you learn? Some people learn from repetition. Some people learn from memorization. Some people learn from just comprehending an example. So that's the first thing you want to do, is understand how it is that you learn. So for example, for me, let's say I'm in a class of anything. I don't think I'll be able to understand any subject until I rewrite my notes, and I'm going to go over this in a second. If I don't rewrite my notes, then I'm going to find it very difficult to understand what was being taught. Number 2, know that it's not about something being hard or easy as much as it depends on individual effort. Now, when I have taught my class over the last 5 years, I realized that there are a lot of smart people in my class, a lot of smart students. But even though that they're very smart, they end up thinking that, oh, you know what, if I heard this once or twice, and I didn't get it, then it's not for me. Well, here's the thing. People need to start understanding that putting in a little bit more than 1 or 2 hours of work into understanding something is really important to properly master a subject. Michael Jordan, he used to play basketball, right? For those of you who are familiar with him, he was a famous basketball player. Michael Jordan used to play a lot, and one thing he mentioned was that after 10,000 hours of playing was when he realized that expertise begins. That once we put in a decent amount of time into something, then we begin to really comprehend it and really understand it. Now, an example that I want to give to you all is that of me. Now, Arabic was really difficult for me to understand initially. I didn't know many of the rules actually until I taught them. So even though I had done Bayina, I had taken all these classes, I realized that really making sense of all of the stuff that I learned would only happen until I taught it. So that's where I realized that my strength was lying in. It was in learning, it was teaching people. It wasn't necessarily learning, because the learning became solidified by teaching. But similarly, that's what was the end result of it. See, you can put in a lot of ingredients into a meal or into a cake or into something, but until and unless you put it in the oven and turn the heat up, you're not going to be able to have something which is a finished product. So for me, the thing that I found useful to me was to reroute my notes every day. It was a difficult subject to learn. It was a difficult subject to comprehend. But eventually, I learned to work smart, not hard. We always say, oh, I'm trying to work hard, I'm trying to work hard. But no, it's about working smart, not hard. And that's how the world is running today. So the second thing I used to also do is I used to review with other students, because when I heard it again, it would help. Repetition helps. And long story short, I did my best to solidify my foundations. I did a little bit of effort every day. I did a little bit of writing every day, a little bit of memorization every day. And now, alhamdulillah, I'm in a position to serve others by teaching this language in whatever of a capacity that Allah has blessed me with. So that's the first thing. Now, let's talk about the second mindset. Let's talk about the second mindset. The second mindset goes over growing spiritually in Arabic. Now, what does that entail? What does that mean? What it refers to, as we're going to review right now, is that there is definitely a lot that you can accomplish in English when you're trying to understand your deen, you're trying to understand, the Quran. But it's really in Arabic where you get the proper essence of the Quran. If we are not able to understand our deen in the language that was revealed, then everything, so much of the tradition gets lost in translation. Now, it goes without saying, the second point here coming up, that you can't really grasp English in Spanish. You can't grasp Malay in Thai, right? For those of you who are from Thailand, if I say Sabai Dima, that means what? That means, are you good? How are you? Right? But I say it to you in another language, it definitely may transfer the meaning, but each single language carries a certain set of emotion, a certain set of rigor, a certain set of understanding behind every single word that is in their language. So to divorce that essential and deep meaning from those words, from those languages, it's not fair. It's not fair to the language, because once we start doing that, what do we end up doing is what? We end up completely taking the language out of context. So now when we understand this from a much broader perspective, you learn to learn a language on its own terms and its own merit. You can't sit there and study Urdu poetry in English. So similarly, is it not only fair that we understand Arabic and understand the language of our deen and the book in which it was revealed in the language that it was revealed in? It's only fair. It's only fair. You don't let a third person speak for other people. When you ask someone to tell them your story, and you look to the second person next to him, and he starts speaking on behalf of the third person in a form that is translated, it's not fair to that person, because there's so much emotion, there's so much vigor that is left out of that individual because of this language barrier. So that's how we end up connecting to the Quran, is by understanding it in the language that it was revealed in, which is the Arabic language. And at the same time, we get a chance to examine the depth of the Quran and its words, and we're going to go over this later. We're going to go over this later about seeing how the various words of the Quran, you will never be able to get them in English. So like an example, maybe I'll give you, I think it's coming next. It's going to come in a second. But an example here that when we go over is like the word taqwa, which we're going to go over. If you examine the word taqwa in several translations of the Quran, you'll see that in one place it'll refer to protection, in another place it will refer to fear, in another place it will refer to God consciousness. So it differs in several places. And lastly, you don't want to hit a plateau. And a plateau, for those of you who are familiar with the English language, refers to a place where you've reached and you can't really go beyond it. So many people find themselves having exhausted all the resources that they have in English, having basically hit a point where they don't feel that they can grow spiritually anymore, because the books that they have in the English language are not letting them accomplish what they want to accomplish. So similarly with the Quran, when it comes to wanting to understand the depth of it, which connects back to the last point, it's important to understand that you don't want to hit a plateau early on in your Quranic studies. So this ties back to this point that the live Arabic course I'll be teaching soon, which is called The Keys to the Message, 10 Keys to Beginning Understanding the Quran in Arabic, I'm actually going to be teaching you 400 essential words in the Quran and how they're used and what they mean and how you can begin to understand the Quran in Arabic. So within this Arabic course that I'll be teaching, every student in every lesson will have about 10 or 15 Arabic words that they're going to have to understand. I say 15 to 20 Arabic words which they're going to have to understand and have to memorize, so that they will be able to properly comprehend and get a good understanding of the Quran after this course. And it's not like you have to sit there and memorize, you put it on flashcards. Rather, what I do is I give it to you in a story, in which the story is in English, but then in between, I'll just put little Arabic words here and there. But then your brain will try to contextualize it in English so that you'll have the Arabic word right there. So that's just something to think about. So as I mentioned, the example of the word taqwa, there are 4 meanings which I want to go over, though there are several meanings that go over the word taqwa, but there are 4 specific meanings that I want to go over. So God consciousness, for example, when Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu attaqullah, that believers have taqwa of Allah. Now I'm not going to translate that right away, but have taqwa of Allah. You'll find translations saying very specific, or several things actually. So the first thing you'll find is believers be God conscious. That's what it will say, be God conscious. Though that is a wholesome meaning for the English language, there are still so many things that are left out if you don't understand what taqwa in its core means. The second thing which you'll see is a reference to fear. Fear God. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu attaqullah, fear God. But again, fear in Arabic, if I were to ask you to translate it, no one would translate it as taqwa. They would translate it as khawf. Khawf is the Arabic word for fear. The third thing which sometimes people will see is love. Love. So love in this sense doesn't necessarily refer to taqwa though, right? So taqwa, when we're seeing the word love is hub in Arabic. And hub is not really there. This is not what it's referring to. So if it says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu attaqullah, so someone may translate it, believers love Allah. That's not really a wholesome translation to the word. And the fourth thing is a shield. Now, you're not going to find the verse saying believers shield Allah or use Allah as a shield or something, but I want to give you an example. Now, taqwa, you see on top where it says example of taqwa, I have the Arabic word written out. So for those of you familiar with the Arabic letters, you have the word ta, qaf, waw, and ya. So the word taqwa, it actually refers to a wiqaya. A wiqaya is a shield. And what do you use a shield for? You use a shield to ward off attacks that end up coming towards you as a defense mechanism. Taqwa is what it comes down to. So what taqwa really is that it's a shield you use to ward off anything that will remove your obedience and love to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what taqwa comes down to. But if you're just reading a translation, you're not going to be able to get that in-depth nuance from it. That's why the Arabic language is so important. You having that understanding of the nuance, you having that understanding with the Arabic. Imagine you're sitting in Jum'ah and the Imam is reading Inna Allah ya'muru bil adli wal ihsani wa ita'i dhil qurba wa yanha 'anil fahsha'i wal munkari wal baghi. So he's going off at the end of the khutbah, you're feeling the khutbah, you feel very close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you feel that the Imam's words reverberated inside of you, and you're able to understand it. You're saying, Inna Allah ya'muru bil adl. Indeed, Allah commands with justice, wal ihsan, and doing good. Imagine that. Imagine that you're making dua, and you're reading the du'as of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You're in your prayer, and you're here, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, and you're saying all praise and thanks are due to Allah, the Creator, the Cherisher, the Nourisher of everything that He created. Now you notice how all of those words that I had just said, that whole sentence was actually a much elongated translation of the first verse of Fatiha. It's interesting, right? How just the Arabic language gives you so much depth. And that's how your heart begins to feel connected in salah and in dua and in generally to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the power of Arabic. That is the power of Arabic. Now the third mindset that I want to go over, the third mindset is, actually it is a mindset, but it's a point to convey, and it's a kind of a myth buster type of thing. But you have to understand that speaking and understanding Arabic aren't the same skill, right? The speaking and understanding Arabic are not the same skill. Now I'm going to go over this. And any specific language that you're going to learn, there's 4 skills you're going to learn. There's 4 skills. The first skill is you're going to learn to speak the language. The second skill is that you're going to learn to understand the language. The third skill is that you're going to be able to read the language. And the fourth skill is going to be that you're going to be able to write the language. So reading, writing, speaking, and understanding. Reading, writing, speaking, and understanding. So here it might sound boring to learn grammar. You might think, oh, I'll just learn how to speak Arabic from my friend or colleague or neighbor, or I'll just watch YouTube, or I'll just watch a Arab drama or something like that. So that's something to keep in mind. So here's something for the future, and here's something to also keep in mind for those of you who wish to learn Arabic in the future. You will not be able to understand the Quran just through spoken Arabic. Now, there are a few reasons. It says here 2 reasons, but in essence, it's for a few reasons. Number 1, Arabic is a very, very unique language. Arabic is a very, very unique language. And I'll mention this to you why. Arabic has many dialects. Now, you may call them dialects, but in essence, they're almost very different languages in the word usage, in the way people understand them, in the way people expect to bring things together, in the way the cultures are even understood. So an example is that a person, let's say out in Kuwait or in Qatar or in Dubai, their Arabic will actually be very, very different than the Arabic spoken in, let's say, Egypt, or spoken in Morocco or in Algeria. It's completely different languages. Now, they call it dialects, but what would be a more appropriate term would be he speaks Kuwaiti, right? Or as they say, he speaks the Khaliji dialect. But it's not really a dialect as much as because it's so different. When you hear Egyptian Arabic, and then you hear spoken Arabic, like modern standard Arabic spoken in the professional world, they're very, very different. So all of these forms of Arabic are different from each other, but they all do definitely source from the Quran. But it's been so many years, it's been 1400 years since these various dialects have developed, so they don't really resemble the majority of the words of the Quran anymore. So that's the reason why you can't just learn spoken Arabic and be able to understand the Quran. That's the first thing. Number 2 is that many words in the Quran are actually not used in spoken Arabic. Many words in the Quran are not using spoken Arabic. So for example, the Quran in general uses the word dhahaba for referring to going somewhere, right? To go somewhere. But in modern standard Arabic, they'll say ruh, right? Ruh, go there. As opposed to idhab, they'll say ruh, go. So that's just an example of it. So there are a lot of words in spoken Arabic, in modern standard spoken Arabic, which you may learn in a college class, which are not going to be used in the common Quranic vocabulary. That's what's one thing to remember. And lastly, spoken Arabic does not use accents commonly. Now, accents, I don't mean here by a language accent. Here I refer to a grammatical accent, and I'm going to cover this in a second. So, in Arabic, you'll see the fatha, the dhamma, or the kasra, like the little line on the top of a letter or on the bottom of a letter, or the upside down, like squiggly thing. So these are called accents. They're called harakat. And harakat in the Arabic language are very important to understand who the doer is in a sentence and who the subject is or who the predicate is. It's very important. If you understand the context, so if you're just an Arab speaker, believe it or not, a lot of people in the Arab world don't properly understand the usage of grammar and of accents within the Arabic language. That's why it's important to know that spoken Arabic is very, very different than that of the Arabic used in the Quran. And I'm going to go over an example with you guys. And this is where I mean that the beauty of the Quran lies in its grammatical nuance. I'm going to give you an example here. Now, I haven't listed the harakat in every single letter or the accents, but I want you to focus on the harakat here, on the Allah and on the bottom of Allah. So the first verse is إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ. That it is truly from His slaves, it is the scholars who fear Allah, meaning from Allah's slaves, it is the scholars who fear Him. Now, how would you know this? Innama yakhsha Allah. Yakhsha means he fears. Now, you don't know who's fearing right now. All you know is that Allah have, and you'll probably get a chance to, no, not probably, you're going to get a chance to learn this aspect when we get into the course. But how, when you say Allah and Allahu on the bottom, the meaning changes. So, innama yakhsha Allah min ibadihi al-ulama. Innama yakhsha, it is the Allah who is feared by the ulama, right? That's the true nature. That if we are truly knowledgeable of Allah and truly knowledgeable of the deen, then we will fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if you don't know harakat, if you don't know accents, then the second thing's going to happen, wherein you will end up saying, Innama yakhsha Allahu min ibadihi al-ulama. Now, there's a problem here. Because now the meaning becomes, it's truly from His slaves, it's Allah who fears the scholars. Allah doesn't fear anyone, right? Allah is Allah. He doesn't fear anyone. He created the world. He created the heavens and the earth. It's people who fear Him. It's creation that fears Him. It's not Him fearing anyone. So this is a nuanced understanding, or rather a interesting way of seeing how not knowing the nuance of Arabic grammar can really mess you up in trying to understand the Quran. And by just learning spoken Arabic, you don't necessarily get a chance to see this nuance. It's a big difference, as you can tell. It's a huge difference. Now, you see how I'm going through everything here point by point, little by little? Well, guess what? This is exactly how I'm going to be teaching the upcoming course. This is exactly how I'm going to go about it. I'm going to give it to you in small pieces, piecemeal it to you, so that you can learn it at your own pace, number one. And number two, you can take it slowly. That's what I believe in. Taking things slowly. Taking your time on it until you get it. Because everyone is different. Everyone learns differently. That's just the truth of it. So that's what I want you to also understand. That I'm going to give it to you piecemeal. That's the first thing. Secondly, in the course, there are actually 10 grammar rules. If you can get down these 10 grammar rules, then I can guarantee you that you're going to have a very solid foundation of Quranic Arabic. Again, 10 rules. Get down the 10 rules and you're going to be okay. That's what it comes down to understanding the Arabic language. Now, going on to the next point. Right? Now again, I just want to remind you of something. That don't think it's going to be hard. Don't think it's going to be hard, as I mentioned, right? You just saw this example. Now, I gave you this this grammatical point, and it doesn't seem that hard. What I'm trying to explain to you now, just to give you a brief example. Allah here, if it is going to have this guy right here, mansub, it's going to be nasab. It's going to, if Allah has fathat at the end of it, then Allah is going to be the one that is having an action done to him. So the action that's being done to Allah is he is being feared. And who is fearing him? It's the ulama. And I'm not mentioning this right now. How do you know it is the ulama? But all you know here is that Allah is the one having the action done to him. Then the action that is here is this right here, yakhsha. Now here on the second example, Allah is the one doing the action. And what's the action that's being done? It's fear. So Allah can't fear. Allah is feared, where the first example works, but Allah doesn't fear anyone. So again, we're going to take this step by step in the future when we get into the course. Now, the fourth mindset to create is to begin to love the Quran. And how do you love the Quran? By knowing the Quran. By knowing the Quran. Anything you put your effort into in life, you will begin to love. Whether you put your effort into school, you put your effort into your marriage, you put your effort into learning, you put your effort into building something, you will begin to love something. If you have a project at work and you put your effort into it, you will begin to love it and you will find it to become easy. You will automatically begin to flock to that thing. That's how the human psyche works. That's how human physiology is. So the first thing that everyone should do, including myself, is to rectify our intentions. Rectify our intentions. We're not here for anyone but to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to become close to His book, to become close to the letter that He sent to us for mankind to be guided. So rectify our intention. And number two, believe that you're learning to love Allah by learning the language you revealed the Quran in. When you try to understand someone, when you try to see where they're coming from, when you try to understand another people's culture, you do it from a place of love, hopefully. You do it so that you can better understand them. And by better understanding someone or something, you begin to have a large sense of love in your heart. That's what it comes down to. That's what Arabic is. If you were to put it into one word, Arabic is love. And there is so much literature in our deen. So much of the Quran speaks about love. When you look at something like a surah like Surah Maryam, there are many instances of love mentioned there. When you look at that of love between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His slave, that's a very beautiful divine source of love that the Quran begins to tell us. And there are so many mentions of the aspect of love in the Quran as well. That's what this comes down to. Number three, you learn to love the Quran by knowing Arabic, because Arabic was the divine mode of communication that Allah had chosen to convey the Quran in. That's what it is. Allah chose the Arabic language to become our universal mode of communication, because Arabic was deep. Arabic had context. Arabic has class. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took it and He used it to reveal the Quran in. And He revealed our final scripture in it. Number four, this is the language, and this is pretty cool. This is pretty neat to check out. Arabic is the language in which, yes, the Quran was revealed in, but it was the same language which the Arab, they used to speak very commonly. They used to speak it all the time. But specifically people who were the enemies of Islam as well, people who wanted to kill the Prophet ﷺ, such as Abu Jahl. He literally used to sneak out at night just so he could hear the Quran being recited. He used to listen to the Quran. He used to listen to the Prophet ﷺ reading the Quran. He used to listen to reading the Quran. And even though he himself was waging war, killing, he was pillaging the Muslims at that time, he himself understood the grandeur of this message that Muhammad ﷺ had brought. So this Quran had also put people who were not even willing to accept and submit to its message in a state of awe and reverence. Number five is that this is the language that unites all of us. For those of us who say La ilaha illallah, it is the language that unites us all. It is the language that when we go for Umrah, when we go for Hajj, and we see all of these people from all over the world, it is this specific language that unites us. Nothing else. Nothing else. When someone from Indonesia sees someone from India, who sees someone from England, who sees someone from Chile, who sees someone from Egypt, who sees someone from South Africa, who sees someone from Gambia, No one cares about who they are, where they came from. All they know is that you're a Muslim and you believe this to be the divine book. So you are my brother or you are my sister, and that's what brings us together. So it's a high time for us to start learning the Arabic language. And the last point in learning to love the Quran is that regardless of our many identities or culture, our upbringing, our tastes, it's our language here where our identity lies, and as Muslims it begins to stem from. For those of us who may speak Urdu, or for those of us who may speak Malay, for those of us who may speak Dari, for those of us who may speak any language, there is a sense of identity present in it. Now, for the majority of us, identity is limited to a cultural identity. But within the Arabic language, yes, there may be a cultural identity, but more importantly, there's a religious identity. And that identity is what we begin to identify with. It's what we begin to define ourselves with. It's a way that we begin to think about things. That's the power of language. So once we begin to understand the Arabic language, we get to think as the Quran thinks, understand as the Quran understands, and begin to process things as the Quran would want all humans to process them. And the last point to keep in mind is about unearthing wisdom from the Quran. Unearthing wisdom from the Quran. Now, what does that refer to? Knowledge is that which you know. Ilm. Al-ilm huwa alladhi ta'rif. Ilm is something which you know. You have an idea of it. You have the theory in your head. The theory may be in your head, but the functionality may not be there right away. But wisdom is knowing how do you apply that knowledge. If you know how to apply that knowledge, then it'll be a benefit to you. But if you just have knowledge as something in your head, as something in your heart, which you don't comprehend, you don't ponder, and nor do you use it to benefit other people, then what's the point of it? What's the point of it? If you don't understand the various uses of knowledge, then what's going to end up happening? So you may have the knowledge of the Quran within you. You may be reading about the Quran and studying the Quran and hearing lectures about the Quran, but without understanding the Arabic language, you don't necessarily know always how do you place the certain verses, or how do you place certain verses in the Quran in the context that they belong. How will you know that, okay, I know in this context this word has been used in 2 or 3 different places, but they all have different contexts, even though it's the same word. How do you know that? How do you get to find that out? It's through understanding the Arabic language, is to building your foundation in the Arabic language. Number 2 is that in any relationship in your life, there is never just one way to love someone. There is never just one way to love someone. One second. In Arabic, specifically amongst the Arabs, when the Arabs loved something, they used to give it a lot of names. So when it came to the aspect of love, they gave it several different names. When it came to Surah Al-Fatiha, Surah Al-Fatiha has over 10 names. You have people that named it the opener. You had people that named it Al-Wafi and Al-Kafi, something which is enough. You have names such as Ummul Kitab, the mother of the book. So when they loved something, they gave it a lot of names. So they expressed several different ways to show the love of something in their life. So similarly, when it comes to learning the Quran and loving the Quran, the only way you're really going to be able to inculcate an intimate form of love with the Quran is by learning the various dimensions through which it is understood. And that is very difficult to come to in any other language besides Arabic, because it was revealed in Arabic, it's taught in Arabic. It's important to understand that. That's the second point. The third point is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala couples knowledge with wisdom several times throughout the Quran. وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَالتَّوْرَاةَ وَالْإِنْجِيلَ. So some scholars mention here that he teaches the book, he teaches you book knowledge, right? يُعَلِّمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ. And he also teaches wisdom. He teaches you how do you apply that. He teaches you the depth of the knowledge that you have. And many people don't see this nuance. They just think, oh, I have knowledge. Look, when you go to wikipedia.com, there's a lot of knowledge there. But is that knowledge useful if you don't know how to use it? Is there a reason that in any institution in the world, in any corporation in the world, there is one institution for actually teaching you what knowledge is, and there's another institution that teaches you how do you apply that knowledge? Let's say you have a plane. You have engineers that create a plane. Just because an engineer created a plane does not necessarily mean that he knows how to fly it or she knows how to fly it. And similarly, just because someone knows how to fly a plane, that doesn't necessarily mean that they know how to build it. But that's where knowledge and wisdom go hand in hand. Knowledge and wisdom go hand in hand. So you may know about the Quran, but when it comes to the depth of the Quran and gaining wisdom from the Quran and learning how to apply the Quran, then the true depth of it, the true beginning path of understanding the Book of Allah will be through the Arabic language. And number 4 is it comes down to learning to apply the knowledge. Unfortunately, in our communities, there is a huge trend and a huge culture of speaking about knowledge as something like in a museum showcase, as opposed to something which is functional in our lives. So when it comes to the Quran's wisdom, it's not something just to be spoken about. It's not something just to be presented and have a lecture about, but it's something to apply into our lives. And so often when we see, and this ties into another point, when you see people being very rigorous in trying to say that the Quran, it means this and only this, and this verse means only this, you know, specifically when you see places like ISIS or you see, you know, extremist thought getting into our communities, a lot of times when you ask people who hold such hard line ideas and you ask them to dissect it for you, you know what it comes down to? They're not able to do that because they a lot of times don't have an Arabic background, number 1. And number 2, they haven't been taught how do you apply that knowledge. You haven't been taught how do you apply that knowledge. You know, it's okay to learn how to code. It's okay. It's good to learn IT. It's good to learn C++ and Java. But just because you learned it doesn't necessarily mean you know how to write code. Just because you learned a language doesn't necessarily mean you know how to speak it. That's what it comes down to. But the Quran, what it wants to do is it wants to bring everything together. That's the point of it. So those are the 5 mindsets that I wanted to convey to you, brothers and sisters. But let's do a quick recap. Let's do a quick recap, okay? The 5 essential mindsets are: works smart, not hard. Good, it's actually right over here. Work smart, not hard. And I mentioned this. You need to create a plan to getting the most efficiency of your time and of your effort. That's what working smart means. Don't just work hard. Don't just sit there and labor over and over again, but you're not getting anywhere. That's not very productive. Number 2 is grow spiritually in Arabic. Understand that getting to Arabic and into its nuances is essential for your spiritual growth. That's what it ties into. Number 3 is you should learn to embrace learning grammar. Actually, well, this goes into another point. But number 3 is that speaking and understanding Arabic are not the same, as I mentioned, because spoken Arabic and Quranic Arabic are very, very different. Number 4, as I mentioned, is learn to love the language. And you're not going to be able to love the language without knowing about the language. And you're not going to be able to love the Quran without knowing the language that it was revealed in. And we had mentioned this. And number 5 is begin to unearth the Quran's wisdom. And wisdom is learning how to apply knowledge. And learning how to apply the Quran's knowledge will only occur once we have some amount of education within the language that the Quran was revealed in. Now, I have designed this course, which I had mentioned. I told you all that we are going to be teaching a course. And the name of the course is, I'm going to bring it up on the screen just so nobody misses it. There you go. The name of the course is Keys to the Message, 10 Keys to Beginning to Understand the Arabic Language. And as I mentioned, it's 10 grammar rules. If you can get down these 10 grammar rules, then inshallah you will have a very solid foundation of the Arabic language. You will have a very solid explanation of the Arabic language. Now, as I mentioned, the way I designed the course was that I had taken a lot from my Arabic classes that I had done throughout my studies. So whether that was through the Bayina Institute, whether that was through Studio Arabiya, whether that was through looking at curriculums of other institutes, whether that was seeing courses from Qibla online, whether that was from the Dars Nizami course, whether that was from the Medina book series, I went through a lot of these different techniques and just kind of tried to understand where each person was coming from. And then took a look at my own background of university studies and then madrasa studies, and saw how is it that I could bring all this stuff together. So all of that, after teaching for 5 years under the Islamic Learning Foundation and within Masajid in New Jersey, it led to this course, the Keys to the Message, 10 Keys to begin understanding the Quran Arabic. That's what it came down to. You can read up more about the course below and in the link that's going to be available to you guys. So that's what is important to understand, that this course, that this is basically all of the stuff that I just went over, it's going to be within the course. And it's going to be a course which, once you're going at it, what you're understanding, once you are beginning to comprehend what this material is, inshallah, with the help of your own effort and with the help of myself as an instructor, I'm sure that you will, after 10 sessions, take your life from 0 to 100 in a way which you never thought that you were able to do. Because inshallah, you're going to find the Arabic course to be something very, very fruitful, something very useful, and it is something that you will, I hope, really benefit from. So in conclusion is that the 5 essential mindsets which I went over, if you have the 5 essential mindsets, then I'm confident that you'll be able to do very, very well in your life when it comes to learning Quranic Arabic, when it comes to understanding the Quran in Arabic. And look, you don't have to take this course. If you just get these five mindsets in, then that's fine. If you have some other route to understanding Arabic, great. But if not, then I really recommend this course because it's been designed with you as a student in mind. And me specifically, look, I wasn't that great of a student. When it came to college, when it came to learning, I was never a fan of the typical classroom education style where the teacher, all he has to do is deliver to these 30, 40, 50, or even 100 students, and he cannot individualize with people. But this course, the point of it is that if you take it at this time and you take the videos and you put them all together and you take them into account, inshallah, you'll find a lot of benefit in it now. But if not, then you'll have the videos, if you register and for the course, you'll have the videos available to you in the long run. So that's something to keep in mind. So that's what I have for you all. That's what we are offering you all. So what I would like to do now is open up the floor for any questions. So you have any questions, you can leave them in the chat box and I'll go ahead and answer them. So let's see what you guys got from me. Jazakallah khair. That's definitely there. By the way, can you guys let me know where you're all from? Because I know a lot of people came in a little late, but let me know where everyone here is calling in from. I would love to give you all a shout out. Myself, I'm currently in Lucknow, India, so that's where I am calling you all from. But where are you guys all located? We have Brother Sadiq from Ahmedabad. Assalamu alaikum. Who else? Cape Town, South Africa, mashallah. From London, North Carolina, okay. Atlanta, Georgia. My parents live in Alpharetta. New Jersey, I'm born and raised. Australia, Nigeria, Mumbai, Brunei, UK, Saudi. MashaAllah, Jordan. Wow. Cape Town, South Africa. Australia, Colorado. Sweden, mashallah. Houston, New Mexico, Belgium, California, UAE, New Orleans, Bangalore. Wow, there's a lot of people from New Jersey, mashallah. Sajjad from Hyderabad, South Africa, Canada, Washington DC, Riyadh, Bangladesh, Rwanda, Gambia, Sweden. Brother Abbas from India. Where in India, Brother Abbas? Canada, Nigeria, Australia, Malaysia, Saudi Arabia. Okay, mashallah. A lot of people here. We have a decent amount, mashallah.
Assalamu alaikum, guys. I'm Qaim Bashir. I was in the background, sort of watching over you guys, getting you guys in. Apologies for the technical issues. I know some of you are just joining now. So, Brother Nihal is speaking to us live from India right now, and he's gone through 5 mindsets that you guys need to learn the Arabic language. Now, some of you asking about the actual course. You can see a link to the offer in the offers tab. It's a priority discount that the Quran Academy are offering at the moment. And the course, well, the course is going to be around the week of 23rd of January. And it's going to last for around 10 weeks. And there will be around 2 sessions per week. And these will be live sessions. And what will happen is we'll have those that are registering for it give us a survey, and we'll work out the appropriate times and the mechanisms to deliver that to you guys. And you'll also get a community that you can be part of through Facebook and other facilities as well. That's right, Nihal?
Yeah, that sounds about right. There's a question here that I got from Sister Hafiza. You're currently finishing Access 1, and well, let me ask you this: what are you actually finishing up with? What concepts in Access 1? And then I can answer the question after that. By the way, Mubashir, the feedback is coming from your side.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Is that
so? Okay. If anyone has a question, just go ahead and type it in now, and then I'll go ahead and answer them, because there's a lot of messages, so I'm trying to get through them, but I'll try to get through it. So for Sister Hafiza, what in Nahu, what was the last concept you covered, and Sarf was the last concept you covered? Actually, if you want, I'm going to type in my email address, and I can probably better answer that because we have very limited time over here. So I'm going to write in my email address. You can take a look at that. It's nihalk1@gmail. All right. There are many free resources recommended for learning Arabic. But again, a lot of them will not come with a teacher for you to keep track of you and to help you with homework and whatnot. What else do we have? Is this only Quran Arabic understanding? Yes, currently this course is specifically for helping you understand the Quran. Will the recording be available? Yes, it will be available, inshallah, after this. Please start Facebook Live class for learning the Quran. Do people actually use Facebook Live to learn the Quran? All right. What else? My reading is not the best. Well, I need to strengthen that prior to joining your course. Very, very good question. If you can differentiate the difference between alif, ba, ta, tha, jim, and all that stuff, then yes, you're fine. But if you don't know the letters and you can't bring them together, then yes, it will be difficult for you. Will I be teaching more Nahu or Sarf? I'll be teaching more Nahu mainly. Sarf will be another course. For those who don't know, Nahu is grammar. Sarf is morphology. I'm not going to be teaching morphology in this course. There is a second course which, depending on how students do in this first course, that we may offer the second course. If I don't have a basic of Arabic, can I join this course? As I mentioned, if you can differentiate between the letters, then the course will be for you. So again, if you can tell the difference between ba and da and ha and kha and da, if you can differentiate between the letters, then you'll be fine. Currently, we do not have any courses for hifth. Yes, there will be a textbook which we have created. Then the textbook will be sent to students who register. Can you offer lifetime access? I've invested in the programs. I don't. You're gonna have to talk to the organizers here. Yes, recordings of the course will be available afterwards. Yes. So okay, that's what we have for you all today. Qari Mubashir, whenever you're ready, I guess we can move on to whatever's next.
Did everybody get a recap on the material of today's webinar? Awesome. Okay, there was one question, Nihal. Is there a need to be able to read Arabic for the course?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, if an individual can differentiate the letters, so we're not going to be going through heavy words, right? But if you can take 3 letters together and you can mention that it's a word and you can read it. So for example, if it says darasa or kitab, if I write the word kitab, you should just be able to read that. That should be good enough.
Awesome. So everybody, you'll be able to access the replay of the whole session, and we'll also send you the slides too. I'm just informing you about that, and any other issues that you might have or questions that come to mind, you can always email us about that, and we can help you out with that, whether that's to do with memorizing the Quran. We have another course on that. We also can deal with your questions about recitation of the Quran or anything else like that. So the replay link will be sent to you via email shortly, and you'll be able to see that and watch that and share that too. And then we also have another webinar for you coming up too. Okay, great. No problem, Umar. We can give a recap. Do you want to give a recap, Nihal?
Sure. So the recap basically that we can do it here. Let me go ahead and share my screen and I'll do that. And give you guys a brief recap. Okay. So the first thing that I had mentioned was to work smart, not hard. And again, this is work hard, not smart, but it's work smart, not hard. And there's 4 points that I want you to keep in mind. Number 1 is that it's important to understand how you learn as an individual. And what I mean by this is to know that some people are visual learners, some people are audible learners, some people need to write things out, some people need to discuss things with others, and some people just need to study on their own, and they don't really need anyone else's help. So for me, I was the type of person that if I had taken notes in class, I needed to rewrite the notes out, number 1, and number 2, I needed to group, basically team up with another student and go ahead and learn from them, and also discuss the example from them. So some people don't need to do that. Some people can go to class, they can listen to the teacher's lectures, they can review the notes once on their own, and then go give an exam. So it's important to understand how is it that you learn. Number two is that it's not about how much effort you're going to put in or about hard or easy. It's just learning to work smart. And you learn to work smart by understanding yourself as an individual. And it's about individual effort. So I mentioned this point about myself, and that's where it came down to. The second point that I wanted to bring up was growing spiritually with Arabic. So what I mentioned was that people will eventually plateau in their study of Islam, because that in English, and specifically not just in Islam, but specifically in the Quran, because of the fact that the Quran was revealed in Arabic, that so much of the Quran, or basically the whole Quran, is in Arabic. So to understand it in Arabic will help you to understand its nuance and its context in a way that English will never be able to provide to you. And the example that I give to you is that of, let's say, Urdu literature. Right? If I start reading Iqbal's poetry out to you, if I start taking the Hindu texts in Sanskrit and start just reading that in English to you, if I start taking literature in Malay or in Thai or in Farsi and start reading it just to you, reading it to you in English, if I start taking Shakespeare and reading it to you in Arabic, I'm going to lose a lot in between. I'm going to lose a lot of emotion. I'm going to lose a lot of intention. I'm going to lose a lot of nuance, because you can't necessarily translate a lot of that. It has to be done in its original language so that you get the emotion and grasp of what it's attempting to convey. So the main thing which came down to is that, yes, you can learn about the Quran as much as you want in English, but to learn the Quran, now again, you can learn about something or you can learn something. There's a big difference. There's a very big difference between them. Right? It's one thing to hear about someone from a third person, but it's another thing to go and meet that person and learn about them. So it's important to understand that. So that's where you learn to grow spiritually. And I gave the example of the word taqwa. The word taqwa, if you look at English translations, in one place it will say God consciousness, in another place it'll say fear, in another place it'll say love, and in another place it'll give the act of you shielding yourself from something. So in Arabic, the word taqwa comes from the word wiqaya, and the word wiqaya in Arabic means a shield. And a shield is used to protect yourself from any offensive attacks that are coming, whether it's an arrow or a sword or whatever. It protects you. So when Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ttaqullah, that believers have taqwa of Allah, what Allah is really saying is to shield yourself away from anything that will disrupt your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's where the example of taqwa comes into. And then I had mentioned that with Arabic, if you're in Jummah, right, or if the Imam is reciting in Taraweeh, look, after this course, for the time that we're going to go on with the course, we're like 5 or 6 months away from Ramadan. So imagine after you complete this course, you're able to get a gist of the understanding of what the Imam is reciting. Imagine you're sitting in Jummah and you understand what the Khatib is saying in Arabic if you live in a place where the khutbah is done in Arabic. Imagine you're making the du'as which you have known since childhood and you actually understand them to an extent. So that's what this course is going to do. I can't guarantee that you'll be able to understand 100% of everything, but you will begin to have the keys to begin your journey with the Arabic language. That's what it comes down to. And then mindset number 3 was, as I mentioned, that speaking and understanding Arabic are not the same thing. And the main point that I want to convey is that Arabic is such a vast language that the Arabic spoken, let's say in Kuwait or in Dubai, is very, very different than the Arabic spoken in, let's say, Morocco or Egypt. Though they call it dialects, they're practically different languages. That's the first thing. The second thing is that many words in the Quran are actually not used in spoken Arabic, while many words used in spoken Arabic are not in the Quran. Because Arabic has over 90 million words. So that's something like that. Arabic has over 90 million words. And there's so many types of Arabic, and because Arabic has evolved in so many cultures, the usage of it has also evolved. But the Quranic Arabic that we want to learn, the one which we understand the Quran in, has remained unchanged since the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And number 3, as I mentioned, Now when it comes to the diacritical marks in Arabic, or the accents, or the harakat, or the zabar zir pesh, in spoken Arabic, they don't give too much consideration to those. But in Quranic Arabic, to understand the verse, to understand a hadith, or anything of that nature, to understand those things, it's really, really important to know that if you do not know how to differentiate between both of them, you're going to make a mistake in understanding the Quran. So the example that I had given is here, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ, where, to give you a brief example, the letter ha here, if it is mansoob, if it has a fatha, if it has a zabar on top, it refers to Allah being the object of something here. So yakhsha Allah, here yakhsha means he fears, being that here that Allah is being feared, which is okay, because we, being the slaves of Allah, fear Allah. But on the bottom, innama yakhsha Allahu, means that Allah is fearing. When it says the who here, it means that Allah is fearing. Now that's incorrect. Allah doesn't fear anyone. So the meaning in this one is that it's Allah, it's the slaves of, or rather it's the scholars who are from the slaves of Allah that fear Him. But in the second one, it's what? It's saying that Allah fears the ulama who are of His slaves. That's incorrect. You're completely changing the meaning. That was that. And then the fourth point, as I mentioned, was loving the Quran by knowing. If you understand the language that the Quran was revealed in and know that it was a divine mode of communication that Allah used, then you'll be able to, learn to love the Quran, because you'll know the language that it was revealed in. For those of you who may have read a lot of books on, let's say, marriage counseling, a famous book is by Gary Chapman, which is The 5 Languages of Love, in which he goes over there are certain languages of love, of communication that we express to get to know them, and not everyone's language is the same. But here, this is the language that unites us all. There's only one language of love here. There's only one way that you get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala properly, and that is through learning the Arabic language, so that you can understand the scripture that He sent down. And it's where our identity lies. It's not a cultural identity, but rather a dini identity, which brings us together regardless of where we come from. And then the last point was unearthing the Quran's wisdom, wherein we mentioned that you may learn about the Quran in English or in any other language, or in Urdu or in Malay or in Thai, but the truth is that if you really want to understand the wisdom of the Quran, then you have to get into Arabic eventually, because it's only in Arabic will you be able to see how the knowledge of the Quran is applied, how the knowledge of the Quran's depth is examined, how it is used in various contexts, what are its various understandings. So that's what I wanted to convey, that if you can get these 5 mindsets inculcated into you, and the 5 mindsets are working smart, not hard, that growing spiritually requires that you eventually grow within your Arabic language capabilities in the Quran. Number 3 is that you understand that speaking Arabic and understanding Arabic are not the same. So you can't just go into a coffee shop or watch an Arabic movie and just expect to understand the Quran. Number 4 is that you can't love the Quran if you don't know the Quran, if you don't know the language that it was revealed in. That's the 4th point. And the 5th point is that unearthing the Quran's wisdom requires you to delve into the Arabic language. So these are the 5 mindsets. Have a mindset of working smart, not hard. Have a mindset of wanting to grow spiritually through the Arabic language, so that you understand your prayer, you understand the Quran, you understand your du'as. Number 3 is the mindset to keep in mind that just because someone speaks Arabic does not necessarily mean that they understand the Quran, because Quranic Arabic is very different than spoken Arabic. Number 4 is that you want to keep a mindset of learning to love the Quran by knowing the Quran. And you don't know the Quran until you know the language that it was revealed in. And the 5th thing, and the 5th point, the 5th mindset to keep to have, is that to get the wisdom of the Quran requires that you learn the Arabic language. Because it's not just in the knowledge of knowing about the Quran that you'll be able to apply. But see, if you know how to apply the knowledge, then it will benefit you in the long run. And the idea I gave you is that if an engineer builds a plane, that doesn't necessarily mean that he knows how to fly the plane. So similarly, when it comes to understanding the Quran, just because you know about something doesn't necessarily mean that you understand how it fully works, how it fully functions. That requires more depth and more study and more practice. So again, the name of the course is Keys to the Message, 10 Keys to Beginning to Learn the Quran in Arabic. So keep that in mind. And that is a recap of what we had just gone over, inshallah.
Assalamualaikum. Thank you for that. Inshallah, we'll be wrapping up now with the webinar. Make sure you guys do take a look at the link to the course. You can see it in the Office tab, and you'd also get it by email. And inside an email, you'll also be given the link to the replay to this webinar, as well as the slides as well, inshallah. Thank you for having us, and a big thank you to Brother Nihal for his presentation. Inshallah, we hope you'd benefit from that, and inshallah, we'd love to see you again soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thanks,